Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you tonight. I am Camille from Uplifters, working as a learning designer for those of you who don't know me yet. And I'm very glad we're having our 30th episode tonight. So I'm going to slowly start just reminding the community of who Uplifters is and the work that we do. So we give a little bit more time for some other domestic workers to join us tonight. So Uplifters is a nonprofit organization empowering underprivileged community with online education and peer support. And what we do mainly is that we offer a free online course on money management, personal growth, and mental well-being. And that is entirely free. It has been designed for domestic workers, and it's a 3 weeks course. And I will just show you the link for those of you who have not been taken the course yet. You can enroll very simply by clicking on the link, sending a message on our Facebook page to enroll. So I'm seeing some of you connecting. Hi, Marianemi, thank you for saying hello. Good evening to you too. And I will continue the introduction. So some of you already know that, but it's very important for me to re-explain again that the very first objective that we want to reach with this series is to gather the community together. So Uplifters is first and foremost a community, and it is very important for us to have this space and time so we can discuss together important topics. And also, we want to do what a community sometimes does. We want to keep learning together, and we want to keep learning from each other and supporting each other. So tonight's episode is about the importance of rest in the life and work of domestic workers, migrant domestic workers. So we'll be discussing about the barrier that they face to get adequate rest, but also the harmful effect of a lack of rest. We will discuss the regulations in place on rest time in Singapore because our July campaign is focusing on Singapore when it comes to rest and looking at what are the specific regulations there and what changes need to be made so domestic workers can receive the rest that they need. And to do that, we'll be hosting Jaya Anil Kumar. She is Senior Research and Advocacy Manager at HOME, Humanitarian Organization for Migration Economics, which is a Singapore-based charity founded in 2004 and dedicated to empowering and supporting migrant workers who experience abuse and exploitation. And I'll be sharing here their website in case you want to know more about who they are and what they do. So we are very grateful for the time and expertise that HOME is giving to the community, and we'll now welcome Jaya to our live broadcast. Hi, Jaya.
Hi, Camille. Thanks for having me, and hello to everyone who's watching this.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. We're very happy to have you on our live broadcast, um, and especially on such an important topic. So I'll be starting and asking you questions, but I also want to remind everyone that you can share your thoughts, your experience, and obviously your questions using the comments box. And we will pause from time to time just to read your comments and try our best to answer and comment on them. So, Jaya, can we start by discussing a little bit some of the barriers faced by migrant domestic workers when it comes to getting the rest that they need?
So, at least in Singapore, I think there are a few kind of regulations or or systemic issues that lead to the lack of rest for migrant domestic workers. So, firstly, there is a lack of mandatory rest days in Singapore. So, what the law states right now is that a domestic worker should have one rest day a week. But currently, this rest day can be compensated off. So, the employer can still pay the domestic worker, and the domestic worker then will be working for the employer for that particular day. So, at home, we see a lot of domestic workers who then don't have rest days during the entire period of their contract, and especially so when they are when they are basically during the loan deduction period. They are when they are repaying back the recruitment fees to the employer. This is also a particularly crucial time when a lot of them are not given any rest days, sometimes because they want to earn that extra little money so that they at least get some kind of allowance during the time that they're not they're paying off their loan. Or sometimes sometimes it's not really an agreement, right? There is a disparity of power between the employer, the employment agency, and the domestic workers. So it's not really a mutual agreement. Sometimes they are told during your contract you cannot get rest days, or during your loan repayment period you cannot get rest days. So that's one of the key barriers that that domestic workers face for not getting enough rest, is because the law allows this payment of the rest day. In the end of this year, the law is going to change to have one mandatory rest day a month. So the law will change to say that one rest day a month cannot be paid off. Home thinks that this is a good first step, but of course we believe that rest is part of dignified and decent work, and you're supposed, and once a month is simply not enough. So that's one of the barriers that we have here. The other barrier is that rest days are not defined as 24 hours. So for the one rest day a week, that is not stated in the law that it's a 24-hour rest day. So what happens is that we see a lot of domestic workers, they have to do some chores before they leave their houses. And when they come back, they have to do some cleaning, some tidying up after the employer. And so that's not meaningful rest, right? The time is not your own if you're still made to do work for the employer. And the employers sometimes think, oh, it's just a little bit of work here and there, it's fine, but it's not. Because you're treated with, if you're meant to be treated as an employee, then you should get your full range of rest, which is should be your rest day should be 24 hours. And any other employee, let's say Camille, you go to the office, and then you're an employee as well, but your rest day, let's say your Saturday, you're not expected to work because if your employer says, hey, you have to come and do some work, that is not acceptable. And it's because I think of perceptions of domestic work that a lot of us have, that we feel that it's okay, you know but also the law, because it's not defined as 24 hours, it adds to this kind of perception as well. And the last barrier for domestic workers in Singapore that I will talk about is that we are not included under the primary labor legislation. So we have the Employment Act, which gives rise to working hours, overtime pay, annual leave, sick leave. So for other employees who are covered under the Employment Act, beyond 8 hours a day, you have to get overtime pay. But for domestic workers, they are not covered under this act. So what that means is that domestic workers can work however long, right? Because they don't have fixed working hours. And we have seen a lot of domestic workers, especially who care for elderly people or who care for young children. They're almost working 24 hours because they don't have a limit on how much they're supposed to be working per day. So that's three barriers that I mentioned. So yeah, it all adds to the fact that sometimes a lot of domestic workers do not get the kind of rest that they need and that they deserve.
Thank you, Jaya. I think it's very instructive, at least it is for me, because it also shows that those key barriers, they are actually legal barriers. They are coming from
Yes,
the
the law.
legal framework
Correct.
itself. And on the top of that, as you said it very well, you have the perception of what domestic work is by the
Yeah.
society, and very often we know that laws somehow reflect also what people
The
feel and
perceptions. Yeah.
think. Um, so I can very much understand that there is still a bit of work to do
Absolutely.
yeah, to better the situation. And I did hear as well that there will be a change by the end of the year, which I agree with you, is a first step, but obviously not enough to make sure that domestic workers can get the rest that they need.
That's right.
Thanks a lot for this first explanation of what the legal framework is and how it itself actually prevents domestic workers from getting the rest that they need.
Mm.
Um, I'm just gonna say hello to the community again. So we have more and more people joining, 26 people watching us at the moment.
Hello,
Um,
everyone.
Hi everyone. Maria, Kim, Liz, Divina, and Maria are saying hello.
Hi.
And yes, we're going to be talking about Breast Day. It's a very important topic. And again, we're very grateful to have Jaya, who knows things that I personally don't know. So I'm also learning a lot here. All right, moving on to another question I wanted to ask you. What are we exactly talking about when it comes to the effects of inadequate rest for migrant domestic workers? Like, what does it lead to when it comes to their physical and mental health, and maybe other, maybe affecting also other areas?
Right. So I think the effects. I think broadly there are. We talk about. Let's talk about the physical effects first. It is no secret that domestic work is labor intensive. And when you couple that with caregiving work, which a lot of domestic workers in Singapore undertake, especially when it comes to the elderly, maybe moving the elderly patient from the bed to the wheelchair and all of that, it is extremely physically demanding work. And just normal housework, cleaning a regular sized apartment is does take a lot out of you. Um, and sometimes it's endless and it's ongoing and there's so much to do, especially when there are school going kids and all of that. So just physically that takes a great toll on someone when you have to work 6 7 days a week with no rest, or you're not given adequate breaks throughout the day. You cannot sleep well at night. So what, just physically that takes a toll on a person's well-being. We receive a lot of complaints of domestic workers saying that they've lost weight during the time that they are with their employers. Of course, this can be coupled with other factors like getting inadequate food and all of that. But the overwork and the physical exertion of just not being able to rest does contribute a lot to just their physical detriment. The other effect that rest has, and then when we talk about rest, and when we look at the when we study concepts like rest day, it's also it's manifold, right? It's about taking a break from your employer's house, because that's where you live, that's where you work, so that's your whole universe for like 6 days a week, right? So there's the aspect of just removing yourself from that place, and also going out and meeting your friends, meeting your community, which is so important for domestic workers, because, like I mentioned, you're living and working in the same place for a very long time, and you're away from your families. So, building that sense of network and community and friendship, and that's exactly what Uplifters is also trying to do, to try and kind of expand the scope of people that domestic workers come into contact with. It's extremely important, because otherwise we have, and we home has done studies on this, like people who are isolated, people who do not get the chance to interact and just be physically and mentally away from their work. They get symptoms of anxiety, depression, low self-esteem. So the concept of rest and the rest day, it's manifold for domestic workers, just because of the very vulnerable situation that they're in, living and working in their employer's house. And a lot of domestic workers, sometimes the only time when they can actually report the if they are facing exploitation and abuse, the only time that they can report such exploitation and abuse is if they get a chance to leave the house and go to an NGO, go to a help desk, get advice. So this is all linked to the concept of rest and the rest day. You need time away from your place of work, in order to actually get the help that you need sometimes. Yeah.
Thank you, Jaya. Yeah, I think you said it very well. It goes beyond physical and mental health. I mean, like it's really systemic, right?
Yeah,
Like if you don't have time for yourself, then it's going to be very difficult to take care of yourself, your
right.
physical and your mental health, but just to take care of your life,
Yeah,
actually, and do what you need to do. Especially if you're in a difficult situation, being victim of abuse or exploitation, and you need to inform and
exactly.
seek help. um, I think what is very important to me also is what I've heard about, being able to go out and to make friends. And like we can't repeat enough how important it is to have
Yeah.
this support network.
Yes.
We've been conducting a survey a few months back now together with Doctor Without Border on mental health of Filipino domestic workers in Hong Kong, and it was very instructive to see that the first person they will go to when they face mental health issues or only when they feel a little low are their peers.
Right.
So
Yes.
not being able to actually connect with others means
Mm,
that you might put a layer of stress on the top of a situation that is already stressful.
yes.
So yeah, Uplifters is an online community, and we're very happy to be able to provide this way of connecting with others online. But we also keep repeating that real life interactions are extremely important
That's right.
and should not be underestimated. That's for sure. Going back to what the audience has to say, we have more and more people joining. I'm going to read out loud Siari Fitria comments. So Siari Fitria, she's an Indonesian domestic worker, and she's also one of Uplifters team leaders. So she's supporting the learning journey of new students at Uplifters. And she says, so she's saying, hello, very good topic, yes. And she's asking if there is any tips for us to fall asleep quickly, because sometimes when the body feels too tired, we can't sleep. And it feels painful because you're in this contradictory situation where the only thing your body needs is to rest, and even when you're able to rest, then you can't fall asleep. Is there anything that you would be happy to advise on this?
I'm not a doctor or someone who's medically trained or even a counselor for that matter. But from the counselors I've spoken to who interact a lot with domestic workers, what they have advised is breathing techniques and meditation before sleeping. Um, I would suggest looking online to find out more because I'm really not the best person to advise. But just focus meditation and mindful meditation and some slow breathing exercises is what I understand can help. Of course, physical pain is if it's something that's chronic and if there's something that needs medical attention, I would really suggest also getting that treated, because if there's a part of your body that is just needs some sort of medicine to heal, please also get that checked out, because like I said earlier, domestic work can be physically demanding, and sometimes you do get injured, in the course of work. So that would be my advice to you, and I hope that's helpful. And thank you so much for that question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for also taking the time to remind Siari Fitria and everyone else that, a persistent pain in the body should be checked
Yeah,
by, a professional, a doctor.
actually, yeah,
And yeah, I would only add to what you said, Jaya. Breathing, like they are very, very simple breathing exercises that can help falling asleep. We're about to launch a new course, like an online course. It will be very short. It will be less than a week, and it's on COVID-19 and mental health. And we will be providing a lot of these centering, breathing-based exercises that can help to relax. Because sometimes when we are not able to fall asleep, it
yeah,
means that both the mind and the body can't manage to relax, and
yeah,
which is completely normal. And I think it is also important to be mentioned that this is normal, that your body will and your mind won't be able to let it go after a long working day where you've been energized and mobilized in different senses. So thank you for your question, and I hope it was also useful for the rest of the community. So yeah, breathing slowly, deeply, and consider it as a normal thing, unless there is a pain that needs to be addressed. Thank you for that. So another question that I wanted to ask, and I think you kind of touched on that a little bit at the beginning, are about the changes that you think need to be made so they can actually get more rest. So if that is legal changes or other kind of changes, maybe potentially when it comes to communication with employers and this relationship with employers. Thank you, Jaya.
So I think, yeah, first and like I think an overarching thing that needs to change is how we perceive domestic work and how we perceive domestic workers. They are employees and they should have rights that everyone else has. So a rest day, so linked to that, a rest day, for example, should be nothing less than 24 hours. Where the employer cannot ask the domestic worker to do any kind of work. There's this perception that, oh, my domestic worker is like my family. She doesn't mind doing the work and all of that. That's all very well and good, but I think the base starting point should be to treat your domestic worker as a person who has the rights of any other employee, and we should make changes to the law that reflect that. So, for example, one is to make the rest day 24 hours. The other thing I would say is to increase the frequency of mandatory rest days. I think one mandatory rest day a month is still very little, because it means that you have 12 at only about 12 rest days a year, if it comes to that. For a lot of domestic workers, they have to work for all the other days of the year, which can be very, very taxing for them. So that's the second change I think needs to be seen, at least in Singapore. And the last one is, of course, including domestic workers under strong labor legislation. So make sure they have stipulated rest times, and make sure that they are given overtime pay if they're allowed to work even for longer hours. I think that one thing that needs to also change in Singapore, and I think in Hong Kong there is some kind of movement towards this as well, is that to allow domestic workers a live out option. Because what this does is that it very clearly demarcates when the day has come to an end for the domestic worker to work, right? And the rest of the time, she's in her own space, she's doing her own thing, and the employer can't possibly ask her to do anything. Because what we see is a lot of times, because the domestic worker is so accessible, she's right there living with the employer, that she's asked by the employer to do something, whatever, even if it's very late at night and technically it's her resting time. So I think one very systemic and fundamental change is that we want to see domestic workers have the option of living out. If a domestic worker, this and the employer both mutually agree that it's better for them to live in the same household, sure, but it is something that I think that people should have the option to decide for themselves. I think it is also important to communicate with employers when you feel that you're tired, when you feel like your body is not able to work anymore and you need a mental and physical break. Um, it is important for employers to know, to be told that you need the rest, because it's a win-win situation when when domestic worker is well rested. She's happier at the workplace, she's better able to do the tasks, and there's less basis for conflict. When you have tired people, obviously there's bound to be conflict and things like that happening. So have that, as far as possible, have that open communication with the employer. If you need to reach out to a third party, for example, the employment agent, to step in and mediate a situation, do so, so that there can be a more objective resolution reached, if there is an issue. So yeah, those are my tips, I guess, for what we need to see changed in order for better rest for domestic workers. Some are interpersonal and some comes
Mm,
under the law. Yeah. So
yeah. Yeah, again, a mix of things, things that you can actually have a little control over when it
Yeah.
comes to, contributing to have a healthy relationship with your employer, but and also some things like, unfortunately, you can't have any control over. And I do confirm that there is a movement in Hong Kong also advocating for
Hmm.
a out
Live.
option.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it will be successful at some point. And yes, on communication, later on, I'll share two articles that we published on our website, giving good communication techniques and tips
Hmm.
to help you engage in a peaceful as possible dialogue with your employers.
Yeah.
Um, Very often, a simple thing to have in mind is really trying to speak on your behalf using I statement, like saying like, in situations where I don't get any rest, I'm taking the risk of not taking care of the kids as well as
Yeah.
I would like, for instance,
Yes. Yeah.
rather than you're not giving me the rest that I need. That's a little tricky because, and I think you said it a little earlier, like there is a very strong imbalance of power, a very strong power imbalance, and also you obviously are in a situation where you might not be able to voice out your concerns as much as you would like or in the way that you would like. We still encourage you to do so, but using good communication techniques that will help you kind of show that in the end the situation could be also win-win for you and your employer.
Yes.
Um, and there is one question that I'm just gonna screen, and maybe I'll address that also later uh, on a one-on-one communication. So I don't know exactly who she is, but someone responsible for the Domestic Workers Corner Hong Kong page, which is huge, is asking how to comfort or advise a paranoid person, and she don't want to seek professional help. So that's a very difficult situation. Again, one of the objective that we had when we started this mental health course that we will be launching in July was really to provide you domestic workers with resources and knowledge, so you can best support your peers. Now, that being said, in this specific situation, I would say that unfortunately there is only little you can do. What I would personally advise is that you keep explaining to this person that you will be here and that if she ever changes her mind, you will be happy to help, because she might change the way she sees things at some point. And just knowing that she has a friend who is caring for her and who will not be judging the fact that she doesn't want to go and seek professional help, um, as such, will help a lot. So that is one thing I wanted to comment on, and the other thing is also making sure that you also set your own boundaries so you don't feel any kind of guilt, because you might feel that you can't help this person as much as you would like, and making sure that you also don't get drained into something that would be emotionally too overwhelming to be dealt with. So that's very hard to be help. Finding the right way to help someone without, while looking at ourselves and taking care of ourselves first at the same time. But I'm very happy to connect after the live and discuss it further if there is any help I can bring. Um, we also have, hi, Josie Jean Milan. We have, students and team helpers saying hello and saying thank you. Maria Nemi, she's saying not having enough rest can result to inefficiency and physical stress. Yeah, exactly what we said. It has an impact on your physical health, that's for sure. In addition to your mental health. Yes. So I'm mindful of the time, Jaya, but I just wanted to give you the floor again, if in case you'd like to ask to sorry to share a last piece of advice or to mention a specific situation that you think would be helpful, and then we'll be slowly coming to the end of the episode.
Last piece of advice. I think it's important for all domestic workers to realize that you have rights. I think this is something that we see that domestic workers they are, they forget that they have entitlements, like rest is an entitlement. Your days off is an entitlement, your salary, all these things are entitlements. And I think the proximity that sometimes domestic workers have with their employers, like living with them and all of that, makes them, it blurs the lines as to what it is you're right and what is it that, sometimes employers can tend to take advantage of the fact that, you're sort of in their living space as well. So don't, when you feel like something is not right, when you feel like, there's a change that needs to be made, you don't be afraid to reach out to your peers. If you want to discuss the situation, reach out to NGOs that are around you, seek the advice, and find the best possible way to kind of speak to your employer about the situation. Of course, where there are clear infringements, like your salary is not being paid for many months, you should just go and get the help that you need, because these are things that are serious and that should is rightfully yours. So be as empowered as possible. Engage your peers, and you just yes, I hope all of you remember that you guys have all rights and entitlements that should be yours. Yeah.
Thanks, Jaya, and get the help you need. I mean, if it's either going to home in Singapore to help in Hong Kong, if you're not, so sure which organization to turn to, as Jaya just said, go to a peer who might know or who might ask to another peer, but don't feel you're on your own on this. You're not alone, and there is a support network existing in both Singapore and Hong Kong, which can actually help you. So yeah, thank you, Jaya, for this last comments. Of course, you have rights, and sometimes easier said than done to make sure they are respected. But again, there are people in our organization who can help. So we're slowly gonna come to an end. And I will just take Anne Marie last comment before that because we have a little bit of time. Rest days are incredibly important as they allow your body to recover. Without proper rest, your body and muscles don't have the necessary time to rebuild and rejuvenate, which can cause some nasty side effects. If we don't give our body a rest days, the stress will add up. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Maya, to have shared that. I think it's the third time we're discussing this. It really does impact your physical and your mental health, and you're the only one to actually, be in a position to set your boundaries and to listen to what your body is telling you, and when it's enough, um, and don't wait too long because there are also effects that will take very long to come back to normal. Thank you, Maria, for that. All right, so we're gonna slowly come to the end of it. Thank you so much, Jaya. It was super informative, very inspiring. Also in terms of accepting some, but also making sure that you stand up for your rights, and knowing also how to do that. I think it's very important. And before we end our broadcast, sometime there is something that we do together. We do what we call our evening ritual. So this is something that we have in Dare to Dream course, and it's one of the best life habits that you can actually create in your life. Um, And so the community to feel free to share in the comment box what were the three little joys that you had today or in the past week. What made you happy? Yeah, in the past day or week. Would you like to start, Jaya, with yours?
Sure. So what made me happy, I think, today and yesterday was today I spent quite a bit of time. I took a half day and I spent quite a lot of time playing with my cat, which made me very happy. And then I got to walk in the rain a little bit, but not too much because sometimes that makes you sick. But yes, it was a light drizzle, so that was very nice. And yesterday I had a very nice evening with my friends, so that made me really happy. So those are my three things. And yes, I'm looking forward to seeing if anyone wants to share theirs as well.
So we don't have anything on the comments yet, but yeah, thank you for sharing. There are sometimes like the simple joys are the most beautiful,
Yeah.
and it was the case with yours. I think for me it was well. I'm very grateful for tonight's episode. I think it was a very important discussion. I can see looking at how the community reacts that it's a topic that should be addressed. So thanks again, Jaya, because you also were the one suggesting to go on with this topic. Um, so yeah, I'm grateful for the conversation we had tonight. I think I'm grateful for being able to rest. This is something that we sometimes take for granted. And then, as you said, I'm an employee, and I can rest the rest I need at
Mm,
least.
mm.
So I'm grateful for that. And I'm also grateful for my daughter, who is actually pretty sick today, but has been super kind in letting me walk. So she's just sleeping nearby,
I
getting
hope
better.
she gets better. Yeah, I hope
Yeah,
she gets
getting better. She's not. She was pretty sick, but she's getting better. So yeah, I'm grateful that she has some respect for my work and didn't disturb. Um, all right. So what I'm gonna be doing afterwards is I will share in the comment box those two articles about communication with employers. And I will also try to reach out to the domestic work corner person to see if I can help more on the mental health issue. So thank you again, Jaya. Thanks a lot. And I wish you a restful night.
Yes, you
Um,
too. And to everyone who has watched, I hope you have a restful evening or night wherever
yeah,
you are.
yeah, because it's already late both in Hong Kong and Singapore. All
Okay,
right. Bye bye, everyone.
bye bye.
Bye, Jaya.